Hi, welcome to a very different Trojan Family Weekend. We're the Goldmans. This is Jonathan, and I'm Deborah, and I'm a USC Marshall MBA 93, Fight On. And
we serve on the USC Parent Leadership Circle Executive Committee, and we're also the parent representatives on the USC Alumni Board of Governors. And most importantly, we are the proud parents of 3 Dornsife Trojans. Our oldest, Tana, graduated last May. She was a summa cum laude, a Renaissance scholar, and she majored in cognitive science with a minor at Rossier's early childhood education and Kaufman's dance program. Our son, Jack, is a junior, and he's studying law, history, and culture with minors in narrative structure and pre-law at USC Gould School of Law. And most importantly, our youngest, Sarah, is a sophomore studying American Studies and Ethnicity with minors in justice, voice, and advocacy, and race, ethnicity, and politics. She's up here with her friends this week to create a sort of Trojan North. So as you can see, we are definitely all in for USC, and we can't wait for them, and they can't wait to return to campus.
Thank you. And tonight we have the honor of introducing Dr. Carol Folt to her second Trojan Family Weekend. Just over a year ago, President Folt was inaugurated as the USC's 12th president. She is an accomplished academic leader and life scientist and teacher. She holds faculty appointments in marine and environmental biology, civil and environmental engineering, and preventative medicine. Dr. Folt is known for always placing students first and for emphasizing academic excellence and innovation among the university's faculty and staff. She is setting an ambitious course for USC, especially in the areas of shared governance and sustainability. Before joining USC, Dr. Folt led the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and prior to that, she served as provost and interim president at Dartmouth College. As you can see and get settled into the Zoom format with Dr. Folt, we encourage you to use the Q&A function located at the bottom of your Zoom window, and you can submit questions directly to Dr. Folt, and we will get through as many questions as we can within the allotted time. So now please give us a warm welcome for USC President Carol Folt.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deborah and Jonathan, for such a nice introduction, and I'm looking forward to meeting Sarah and her friends at the end of the meeting, because like all of you, I really miss seeing the students. They want to be back and we want to be with them. This is really harder than anything I've ever faced in all my years in universities, and that's the desire to be right there with everybody and unable to do it. So really appreciate it, and appreciate very much everyone that's tuned in today, and all the parents who are supporting their students for the Trojan Family Weekend. This is one of the favorite weekends for everybody of the year, and so it's hard to do it this way, but I know that we will be back in person again, and we look forward to that. It is actually a special year. I don't know if you'd realize this, but USC officially turned 140 years old on Tuesday, because we opened our doors on October 6th, 1880. There's so much that I would love to share today about USC, but I want to leave plenty of time for questions. So I'm just going to hit a few topics, and then I know we'll get to the ones that that are top of mind for all of you. So I'm going to stay away at the start of the spring term, even though I know that's exactly where you want me to go. So keep the suspense. You'll stay tuned in because we'll definitely talk more about that. But I want to start with gratitude. I'm enormously grateful to the people who are here, to all the parents. Not only did you entrust us with your students, you're sticking with us during this really hard time. And we really care that you are trying so hard to help us help your students be successful. And if there are students on, I want to thank you too. You help us show your families what your USC experience is all about. I can only imagine the number of things that you've faced and what it's felt like for you, yet you're in there, you're giving it your all, and we're just so grateful and look forward very much to having you back in the classroom. I'll start with a brief COVID-19 update because, of course, that's the culprit behind our situation right now. we're in a special situation by being in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, along with the rest of the world, is grappling with a global pandemic. It's also, like the rest of the world, determined to answer a long overdue call to end systemic racism. And we also, in California, but elsewhere, know that we have severe challenges posed by climate change. We have fires ravaging our communities as we speak. And I imagine that there may be people even on this call that are facing real hardship because of that. And my heart goes out to all of you. But that is the world in which we're trying to provide an education and also build a better world to deal with all of those issues. At the same time, we also have resources at USC that many others don't have. And we have the determination of a very diverse and creative community and the support of the Trojan community that can help us. And we have been drawing on that support over and over again. And that has been very important. And in particular, parents and alumni, students have been helping keep people at USC safe. We've been monitoring health and well-being of our students that are in university housing and in off-campus residence. In 1 week of September, more than 2,500 students without symptoms were tested. We're testing about 4,000 people a week right now. And for students who are watching, if you haven't gone through our testing station, it's really easy. I kid around and say that if most of you could go through it faster, it took me 3 minutes because I couldn't see the screen to type my name in. But if you can get your name typed in, you get through very fast. That's where they can also go to get flu testing. Our dream is to have everybody back and be able to test everybody twice a week and be able to do our surveillance testing and our tracing in the spring. And that will require us tooling up to almost 50,000 tests a week, but we're ready. And the campus is ready. So right now we are in a waiting mode for the County of Los Angeles to allow us to bring more people on campus. That is 100% the issue that we're dealing with, is how do we get the permission to start bringing students back? But we don't want it to happen. We don't want it to happen one day. They say, okay, you can bring people back. And we say, okay, we'll take 3 weeks to figure out how to do it. We'd rather be ready so that as quickly as possible, we can get people back when that happens. We also want to make sure you have a safe place to quarantine. And of course, some of you I know have already quarantined. The students have already quarantined in the inn. And I think they're doing a really good job trying to keep people comfortable. That's not been true at all places around the country. We put a lot of effort into that. And interestingly, we've given beds to 14,000 nights to caregivers and emergency workers. So we've opened up the inn also as quarantine space for people that live around here in our hospitals and work here. And that's taken real support, but it's made such a difference for people because they're putting themselves on the line. We've also been really aware of the economic devastation, and I know it's tough on families that are paying tuition, and it's tough on our communities. We distributed almost 19 million in CARES Act funding, and that went to 14,000 of our students. And the 1,500 or so students who were not eligible for that funding, because of the way it was stipulated, we created another pool of almost $700,000 that was set aside, that we've been doing our best. And again, a lot of that has come direct from philanthropy, people helping us help others. And it's made a difference from Trojans around the world. They've been giving us PPE. We have more than 100 of our students have signed up to tutor students of our USC Keck workforce through Dornside's Joint Educational Project. That just really warms my heart. And I feel like it's just such an incredible example of this whole generation's determination to make a difference in the world and to help others. And it's just another way that I see that. So I could give you so many examples like that, and they're just really wonderful. And I just thank all the people that have supported us. It's taught universities that we can move fast. I mean, universities are wonderful places of innovation, but everybody knows the old saying, if you want to make a change in university, it's like herding cats. You want to add a new course, it might take 4 years to get the approval. Well, we don't want to be slow anymore. And what we learned is when the pandemic came on, 2 weeks before the pandemic, if Deborah or Jonathan, you called me and said, you really got to get some online education going here. Sarah needs to have a class online. I would have said, well, we're working on this. 3 days after the pandemic, we made the decision to be 100% online, and everybody did it. And everybody tried. And during the summer, I think we had close to 4,000 faculty repeats going into our educational system to improve their own online training. I'm just going to tell you, lifelong learners are the faculty, and they are out there changing, upgrading, just like our students. This isn't going away. Now, the exciting thing is, how do we use what we can do online to extend what we can do in person, what we can extend overseas, and things like that. So I think it's fantastic. It's also been exciting to see students keep doing things, these service things, the ones I just told you about it. There's another example. We've got students that are so caring about sustainability, and it's deep in my heart and mind. And they are working on that, whether they're at home or they're online. I have an example of one of our students, Isabel O'Brien, who has been looking and thinking about climate change on the oceans. And she was able to show how discarded clam, oyster, and mussel shells could help reduce acidification in oceans and lakes. And that made her a top 20 finalist for the Google Science Fair. She did that in 2015. She's now an undergraduate at Dornsife. And she is bringing that to bear here back at Dornsife. And she just attended a summit in Sacramento through the Dornsife Center for Political Future to reshape government policy on climate change. And that's what students are going to find a way to do, even if they're online or not able to be in person. These are things we want everybody to think about. And the faculty aren't slowing down. They, like everyone else, many of our faculty are also dealing with elderly parents. Many of them have kids or at home. They have their own fears about COVID, and none of them have houses that were designed to be studios for teaching classes. And so they adapted very fast, but they've done a lot of other really exciting things. I don't know if anyone watching has had a class with Professor Jack Feinberg, but he really loves hands-on learning. And he decided he was going to do labs at home. So he mailed more than 1,000 shoebox-sized lab kits to the Dornsife students, and he mailed them around the world, no matter where they were, so they could do some experiments at home. And he promised us they weren't going to blow up their garage. It's going to really make it work. But as a result, it meant seniors like Elizabeth Zhao could build and test a basic electrical circuit for an advanced physics course. I know that science courses only come alive with that hands-on learning. So the fact that they're doing everything they can right now so that when people are back in person, they can do it even more, gives me a real sense of gratitude to the faculty. Now, when I think about our students and all the ways that people are working, and I know that you're all still trying to make friends and get to know each other, and I just really applaud that. I'm also very grateful that our students have really done their best to change behavior. In our entire time, and we've been back since, we've been really dealing with this since March, we've had only about 650 COVID people test to have COVID. Now, we're an 80,000 person community. And that is a very low number, and it has really trailed off. And we've had very few outbreaks, but students have really cooperated with us to try to do the contact tracing. And I haven't felt the need to do some of the drastic things I've seen other universities do, because our students are trying really hard to be responsible. And I am so grateful. And so that's what gives me a lot more optimism about us being able to come back in the spring too. Now we're going to have football. Trojan football is returning, and I know that many people are excited about that. We have to also do that in a very safe way. Our first game is November 7th at the Coliseum. Now, the Pac-12, you all know, we are only able to do this because the governor intervened. The governors of California, Washington, and Oregon intervened from everybody else that told us we couldn't come back and said, yes, you can. And that was because the Pac-12 was able to secure daily testing for every one of the athletes in all the schools so that they would be playing like that. But these players are living an unusual life. They're basically living in a bubble. They don't go back to apartments and mix. They're mostly spending their time with other people to keep them safe. But, we're really looking forward to that. And I'm trying to figure out some fun way that we can all celebrate that first game in some sort of great socially distanced way. And if anyone has great suggestions, please let us know, because we want to be able to celebrate things that we share together. The incoming class has been really tough on the first years, and we really thank them, that group, so excited to be here and then not able to come, and really hope that we can get first years back in the spring. And it's an amazing class, almost 3,500 incredible, curious, and creative souls standing out among 60,000 applicants. It's the most diverse and, in fact, has the highest GPA of any class in our history. It has the most Latinx students, the most first-gen students, the most Black students, the most underrepresented students in our history. And that first-gen population has been growing steadily for 5 years. We know that the affordability initiative we put in really helped. 220 students were able to take advantage of it. If we had more money, we would extend it more rapidly, but we have to build it up as we build resources. But we're excited. And one of the things we've done during the pandemic is really increase the spend on financial aid. So, this is great. We're welcoming that community and very excited about them and love to see their accomplishments. And they want to change the world, and they're going to do it with our amazing faculty. I'm just going to mention two of faculty right now because we've had two pretty nice high-profile stories recently. And I'm going to congratulate these two faculty members. One is Professor Viet Thanh Nguyen, who just recently was the first Asian American to put on the Pulitzer Prize board. So that's in their 103-year history. He is the first one to have had that happen. And we're really excited about it. He has a debut novel, The Sympathizer, that some of them may have read. I'm sure there are going to be classes where you could study that. And just 2 days ago, and I was noticing Sarah's major, this is a professor in Sarah's department, Professor Natalia Molina, received a MacArthur Genius Grant, which, by the way, the previous professor also received at one point. And she does incredible work on thoughtful, complex questions about race and citizenship and belonging. And these are the faculty that are teaching. And in addition to our great faculty, many of the faculty have started bringing in alumni. I was talking to the head of our cinema school, and she has a list of 50 people who are actors, producers, winners of many Academy Awards and other things, and they're doing pop-ins in all of the classes. So you see that in a lot of our courses. Our alumni have been willing to join the classes in really extraordinary ways. That's one of the special things about USC, is that amazing alumni body that's so accomplished. And because they're all quarantined, they're all willing to try to help. So I think those are things that we're really trying to increase and see continue and to grow. We also have our academic initiative in the neighborhood and academic initiative. We had our largest class ever accepted at USC, and we're very excited about that. And I think that's giving us a real start towards what we believe is, in the long run, is one of the real benefits of being at USC, is that you're in this amazing place, but you're also part of one of the greatest urban regions in the world. And if our students can come and study at USC and get all the benefits there, but also are ready to be part of the changes that take place in these amazing urban centers, dealing with the problems that are there and the opportunities, that is a benefit that very few institutions could really offer students. So we really want to see that increase. Now, I know a lot of you have questions about what's going to be happening in the spring term, and also questions. Some of you may even have more people in your family who are applying and things, and for the fall. And so I'm excited. I'm going to take a couple minutes of my time to introduce a new member of the senior leadership to you. And the person I'm introducing is Kedra Ishap. She's the new Vice President of Enrollment Management. She's also a founding member of the College Board Access and Diversity Collaborative, and she ran all enrollment management at the University of Michigan before joining us here. And I'm so excited to have you meet her. And because I think she can give you answer some questions in a moment. And I think, is Catherine Spear on here also, Reen? No, I won't. I was going to introduce someone else, but I don't think that they're online. But when we think about what we're trying to do for all our students, I think the way we build a class, the excitement, the real skill that our students bring in, a lot of that comes through the admissions process. And our admissions team does a phenomenal job. Every single one of the people online is going to know how good they are, because we found your students, but they try so hard to do this really well and make sure that we're giving a really good shot to people to be able to come here. And then most importantly, once they're here, to make sure that they can succeed. And that's really important part of the Trojan spirit. So I think, I know the thing that's probably top of everyone's mind is the spring semester. So what I'm going to explain is why I can't give you the answer yet. If I was forced to decide right now what's going to happen in the spring, I have only one choice, and that is that we stay online, because that is the only choice the LA County gives us. So we are in a position of being ready and doing everything and working with LA County, because we want to convince them, and I'm reasonably optimistic, but I know I can't promise anything, that we can at least go back to the hybrid that we had planned for in the fall, which would be to bring as many students as we can back, and then try to have some of the classes as hybrids, some of them as online, and some of them as in-person opportunities. We're still restricted on that, so we've had to ask our faculty to basically plan for both. Do double duty again, figure out how to do an online class and a hybrid class and an in-person class. And we'll continue to work closely with officials to advocate. I think because we have such testing programs and we can keep our own students safe, I think that helps us, but they don't make a decision separate for USC and UCLA and not for everybody else in the county. So we need to work very hard to have this happen. But we're able to turn on a dime, and we will move as quickly as we can. We've taught nearly 9,000 courses online, and our position with the county is going to be, if we needed to, we could go back online. If we could get people back, we can go back online. So I'm just explaining to you why we haven't given you an answer, but there will be, next week, I'll be sending out a message telling you the very last date, the latest we can wait to make a final decision, which I think will be sometime mid-November, to say exactly what we're going to do in the spring. So I'm going to put Dr. Kendra Ishop on, because she's going to talk to you about the course catalog that is going to be produced, because we're going to ask students to sign up, understanding that it still may change. So why don't I turn that over to Kendra.
Hello, Trojan family. I'm so happy to be among you, even if it's on the Brady Bunch squares of Zoom. I'm particularly looking forward to January and February, now that I've transitioned from the University of Michigan to the University of Southern California. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be a part of the USC community, as we all make tremendous adjustments and sacrifices to endure through our current times. As Dr. Foldis mentioned, we have been diligently preparing a return to campus as soon as health conditions and state and county regulations allow us to do so. And like so many of our first years, I too have begun my Trojan experience living this Zoom life. And while I've had the opportunity to walk the campus a few times, I really do yearn for the opportunity to be amidst the hustle and bustle of an active and vibrant campus teeming with students. I feel like I can't quite, culminate my transition to the university until I can be amongst that Trojan spirit. We're even more prepared for spring in the ways that Dr. Folt has mentioned and more. The first sign of spring begins with spring registration. Spring registration begins on October 19th, and students are already beginning their advising process as we work together to ensure the continuity of their educational process. Students will be selecting from a robust schedule of courses of almost 10,000 classes. Most will have an online course designation, as Dr. Folt just mentioned. Our faculty in colleges and schools have designed courses that are meant to be flexible and able to pivot as soon as we have further information about the density of the campus on the spring. This also ensures that for those in our community that prefer to stay home and continue online for their safety and comfort, that they'll also be able to do that even as we begin to reopen campus. We'll be sharing a series of communications. Dr. Folt just mentioned the first of which will come out next week, that will take us into the spring with our community in advance of registration. This first one will be focused on the spring academic plan and with early updates regarding housing, student engagement, and our health and safety plans. Another will follow in November with additional information about housing and residential life, as well as continued updates. And the update we're all waiting for about our final plans for the spring semester. And all along the way, we're continuing to work hard to deliver an outstanding education and engagement through multiple modalities as we prepare to bring our community safely back to campus. I really look forward to meeting many of you and your students in person as soon as we can get back. And I'm thrilled to be here and very much ready to fight on.
Thank you. It's really great to have you here. And when we go through question and answer, she'll be here too if we have questions that we want to bring to her. Between now and spring term, we are still trying to get permission to even bring students back to be able to go to the library. As soon as I can, I will say, if we could bring 100 people a week, 500 people a week back on the library, we would still try back to use the library, back to use the green space, back to come back and sit under tents. We do it. We don't have that permission, but we will continue to try. So just to let you know where that sits right now. So I'm going to open it up for questions, but I'm going to end. I just want to share a thought that comes in a quote that I love so much. It's a quote from a book by Terry Tempest Williams. And some of you probably know her. She's an amazing environmental writer. She writes beautiful things about the environment. And this, I think, is a wonderful sort of touchstone for uncertain times. She says, "I pray to the birds because they remind me of what I love rather than what I fear." And I think those are words that really help us right now. Let's think of the things we love, not the things we fear. And together we will be back doing those things, and we'll do our best to help you do as much as possible in the meantime. So why don't I open it up to Jonathan and Deborah, and they can field questions, and thank you.
Hi, so it looks like, sorry. The first question is, can USC limit the amount of students living on campus in the spring semester by only allowing perhaps seniors and freshmen on campus, like some other universities, for example, Harvard?
So what we're already in the process of, so if we get back on campus in the spring, it's most likely we'll be down to one person per room, one bedroom. Some places we're trying to get to, I think we would probably be at closer to 5,000 and 10,000. So we would need to make some decisions like that. And we've been thinking about it, potentially first years and seniors. That's been one idea. We also know, though, if that happened, we might be able to help other students get housing other places. There is housing available. So I'm not going to pick a class yet or say anything because we haven't made those decisions, but we're really trying, and we'll have to do some prioritizing. We also need to let students that have maybe you're doing an honors thesis and you need to be in the studio, or maybe you're studying dramatic arts and it can only be done in person. We'll have a whole set of criteria, but that would be decisions that we're already playing with, but we haven't made yet.
Okay, great. Next question is, why does USC need permission from LA County to open up?
LA County, basically it's legal. They are in charge of health, and they have, if you go against county rules, they can shut you down. Just like we are a part of the city. We're a private institution, but that doesn't mean we're free of law.
Toward me.
Okay, great. Next question is, when students can come back to campus, what's the first big event you'd like to see scheduled for students?
Oh, what a great one. Well, we've been thinking a little bit about if we could come back, that we might need to run almost 2 orientations. One, those first year students that missed out on orientation, we probably need to do something really fun. And again, even if we come back, it's going to be socially distanced. It's not going to be the same kind of everybody dancing shoulder to shoulder, those events. But I think we'd be focusing on some things to get new students that have never been on, transfer students first years. That would be a very big idea and something we'd love to do. And I think beyond that, because they're going to be smaller, a lot of the early events are probably going to be school by school or within particular dorms, or, we've been thinking maybe we invite Gateway students to come on for an event. You know, I think we just do things in smaller, localized scale all spring, even if we're back. And it's not probably going to be maybe graduation if we get that, or next year when we actually can have 20,000 people dancing together, which is pretty exciting. But that's not going to happen for a while.
Okay, next question is, what is the type of COVID test that will be available to students?
Oh boy, we have several right now. Right now we're using the PCR that's self-administered through the nostril. We also are using some antigen testing, and there are some other tests that are available. So as we build up for larger capacity, we're going to be trying different things. But right now we're still PCR testing most of ours.
Okay, great. This is a question. I've heard a lot about how you always put students first, and I've seen your social media posts with students. I imagine it's harder to stay in touch with students during the stay-at-home period. How are you getting around that so you can keep up with everything they're doing?
You know, that is my heart. That's probably the single biggest disappointment for me. And I think it's probably true for all of our administrators and faculty, you know, because in our normal work, I mean, we do things in small groups and I still see people, but normally you could just go out in the lawn. You know, last year, for example, I just walk out in the fall and I might just bump into a group that's doing improv. They love to do improv in front of Bovard. And I just walk up and listen to an improv group doing hilarious things. Or I walk around at night and I see people doing street dancing at, you know, in the middle of Truesdale or something. So all those spontaneous things are gone. So I just have to get things sent to me. I read them. I try to meet with individual groups. I've been doing a lot of that with student groups and student government and trying to do it that way. But I totally miss out on the spontaneous. And that's what I can't wait to get back and have a chance to do.
Great. Has USC Student Health and Dr. Van Orman communicated to the state and county health officers the significant mental health consequences of Zoom-only closed campus learning is having on students as a factor for the state and county to weigh in, allowing reopening? Is the university urging them to consider the total health aspect of continued forced shutdown of a safe restart?
Yes. I mean, that's exactly I think we've got sort of three arguments that we need to make. And I think one of them is that we can do the testing and we can do everything we can. And I think we have to say that we're making an honest effort to keep from the spread out of our communities. So I really do think that's one of the big concerns. Isn't necessarily that we can do it on campus, but what happens when people leave campus? So I think they would probably want assurance on both of those areas, and we're working towards that. We've got better data, but that's something that is important. And we're talking about mental health, and that's certainly one of the main things that I'm talking about as we're reaching out and trying to understand how we could get that changed. The county right now is really trying to get the public schools back in place. I think once the public schools go back in place, it makes it easier for us to go back as well. This is partly why I feel more encouragement for the spring semester than I might right now, because I do think they're dealing with many, many issues, but these are all part of the calculus of that for me. And I think mental health becomes increasingly concerning to all of us. Okay,
great. Well, now that you've been living here for over a year, what's it like to be in Southern California again? Any surprises?
The surprises are that I don't get to be in Southern California again. I'm in here, but I'm not really in. No, that's not true. I love it. I'm really enjoying being back in California. You know, one really great thing about California is even during COVID, I get out and I walk every day. You know, I can be outside. The weather is very, very good. I get a lot of physical activity, which has really been important to me. And I think wherever we can, we encourage people to do that. I think I am really enjoying what I see of the potential for USC. in sustainability, working with, the city of Los Angeles. The mayor is leading the C40 or C60 group. It's the largest cities in the world have a consortium to work on sustainability. He's now in charge of that consortium, and he's bringing USC in. It's going to give opportunities for our students to be involved in sustainability in a really wonderful, exciting global way. So being in Southern California has given me many more exciting ideas about what USC students and faculty and staff are doing, but what we can do as we look forward, for 2025, 2028. So I'm excited about that.
That's great. Is there any guidance on SAT testing for incoming students since some universities are no longer requiring them?
Kedra, do you want to take that?
Sure thing. I encourage you to take a listen to the bookmarked admissions presentation that was at the first of the morning to give you a lot of insight into what we're doing, for our incoming applicant pool. We too are test optional for students. We frankly don't expect to see many test scores. As the pandemic kind of took hold and went over time, there were fewer and fewer opportunities for students to be able to test, and so we don't anticipate seeing many. Being test optional means that we're really test optional. What we want students to do is to kind of take stock of themselves and look at the academic credentials that they have to submit to us, put together what best represents who they are, and submit those things that best reflect who they are academically. And our team is ready to start reading in about the next 3 weeks or so. They've been training for some time on and getting ready to read these files that are going to look different than they've looked in the past. But one of the things that we've been talking about is that it's not unknown to us to have to look at students holistically. That's how we review students to begin with. But even students who have differential credentials. We have thousands of students that are impacted by wildfires, that have grade disruptions. We have students impacted by global issues around the world that, create academic disruption. And so we've been familiar with this for some time. It's never been the entire applicant pool. That's going to be new for us. And we ask for your patience and grace as we work our way through files and make sure that we give due diligence and time to reviewing all of the students who took the time to apply to us. But we're really excited to see what they have to share with us. And we know that, there's going to be all kinds of stories that students are going to have to tell as they've lived this kind of life-changing experience. But we know where they are. We know the experiences that they've had. As Dr. Folt mentioned earlier, we've all been in this together. So there are no surprises in the sense that we know that students' academic lives have been disrupted and their applications will look different. But nonetheless, we're really excited to see them over these coming weeks.
Great. Thank you. One more question. What is USC doing to use its influence with local authorities to otherwise push local government to allow our students and faculty to return to campus who would like to?
I think the most important, I believe in partnerships and collaboration. And I think the better we are as a citizen, the better we are at trying to make this change happen. And I have to say, as much as I wish I could march down there today and say, let me start, I really do understand that the county has probably one of the most difficult jobs in the country right now. And unfortunately, last week they're back up high numbers again. So I think what we need to do is not try to put pressure. I mean, of course, we're going to ask, we're going to work. We've got a lot of people who are thinking about it. But what we're trying to do is be a partner. So we've been partnering, as you heard, with the K through 12. We're the highest private employer in the city of Los Angeles. Our students are showing responsibility. I think as we build the argument around all of those things, and then we talk about the mental health of all of our students, we'll make the best likelihood, the most likelihood that we can actually have this happen. And our hospitals and Keck, our serving of local communities with testing would also be very helpful. I'd love it if we could get our testing, but also be able to help testing in the local neighborhood. I think all of those things are we're building some bricks towards trust here. And I think we need to do all of those.
Great. Do you have a protocol published if a student tests positive when school reopens so everyone knows what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that at the tip. There's a whole web page on that. And maybe, I don't know if anyone else is on the phone that could do that. Do you know that, Kedra, or we can ask the group to distribute that to the parents, but it's on the web page what our protocol is. Yeah, we'll have to find some other way to, it's not sitting right here in my mind, the website.
Okay, great. Will the spring semester calendar stay as posted, even if things stay remote, or do you anticipate that it might change, for example, start later and cancel spring break like some other schools are doing now?
Yes and yes. I think we do. We're not quite ready to make a final decision on that, but what we started thinking was, when is the latest we can open that gives us the best chance of being able to fully open? Okay, so that's where we're starting. And yet we have real constraints. And so we realized that if we have to open by January 15th, we think, in order for our students to get their financial aid. If we delay it any longer, other laws kick in that would put our students' aid at risk. So that's the date we're aiming for. I think right now is January 15th. I think Kedra could tell you more about that, but it's not firmed up. We also probably will not have spring break, but we'll probably have 5 wellness days that can be distributed and used to make sure that students, this is what other places have done, but try to make those be really beneficial. I don't know, do you want to add, is there anything to add to that, Kedra? We're going to decide that as soon as we can.
No, I think you hit it precisely. So as early as next week, we'll be ready to share likely that January 15th start date, as well as a plan to have wellness days where we can have our student and USC community be able to focus on themselves and their mental health to make up for the lost spring break.
And we're trying to have graduation still be on time, and we still are trying to have 2 graduations, because we told the students last year. But again, sadly, these are things we cannot confirm, but the more flexibility we keep, the more likely it is that we can do something like that. But we don't want to extend the year. Plus, we're all hopeful that by the time we get through it this summer, we're ready to do regular summer term and then regular fall term. So we don't want to push it too far into the summer. We really want to move at a fast pace.
Okay, great. Last question. What does the day in the life of a president look like?
Well, my day in my life in this world that I'm living in now, it pretty much starts with me getting up really early. I'm an early riser anyway, getting my cup of coffee and taking my dog Charlie for a walk. So that's how I get outside. I hate to admit it, but people on my team sometimes we're talking sometimes at 7 a.m, but we try not to do that, but we do. So my day is really a mixture of Zoom meetings, telephone conversations, and a lot, it's pretty much like a student in that we're all communicating via Zoom. And I go into the office once a week if I can, but I had to set up my own little private studio to make all these selfie videos. So I've turned into, I do a lot of video taking, and I think that's pretty funny because none of us thought we were going to be filming ourselves so much. So I do a lot of that, but I'm doing that, and then I have a lot of meetings with presidents across the country. There are a lot of, I belong to a lot of organizations. We meet that way. The Pac-12 meets a lot. We've been making a lot of decisions about that. And we have lots of international alumni groups and students and faculty. So I try to stay in touch with them as well. But I sure miss the in-person, the up close and personal is the missing piece.
Well, President Folt, we have a surprise for you. We have a little bit of up close and personal. Here are 4 Trojans that are going to say hi and thank you for spending so much time with us today. Every time we hear you speak, you're amazing. All of your answers to all these questions. For all the Trojan family members in the audience today, thank you for being here with us. We know it's virtual, but it's amazing, and we will all be together soon. And we look forward to seeing you in the rest of the programming tomorrow. So make sure you check everything out, and starting with the Provost panel tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Thank you. Fight on.
Fight on.